Welcome everybody to chatting with the comic community. That's right, guys. We are still going. Sorry for the delay on some of these videos. I wasn't feeling well. I'm better now, and just on the cusp of Comics Curing Cancer, which we hit like over 60K. So, Cliff, you're getting a tattoo, by the way, which was a great weekend. Definitely go check out the replays on those. Some things didn't sell. But right now, we're getting into chatting with the comic community. We have 3 episodes left. That's right, 3 episodes left. And then we will have Bobby Delegato coming on November 4th for the second live chatting with the comic community. The first being the episode with him about like 5 years ago. We made it. We're going to get to episode 100. But right now, right here, I have a guest that I got introduced to from Biggie Shack, from Comic Collector Geek, from all of those people, Chonko and that I got introduced to. I'm finding out more and more about this fellow, how much he collects, how great of a collector he is, and just how good of a human being he is. He has been interviewing some great people throughout this comic community and has made friends with some very, very reputable artist. So without further ado, let me bring out my next guest. Let me bring out Rich, aka Big Nasty Comics. Welcome, Rich. Thank you so much for joining me, man.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. Yeah.
So, sorry, we kind of had to delay and kind of
Oh,
reschedule, so I do apologize for that, and I'm appreciative that you were in full
no,
understanding.
no worries, buddy. No worries. That kind of stuff happens. I completely understand. Yeah.
So, for the viewers at home that don't know a lot about you, give them a little rundown of who you are.
My name is Rich, and I'm a Big Nasty Comics, and on Big Nasty Comics, we do several different shows, or a couple different shows, not really several, but yeah, I'm just a guy. I've been collecting on and off since I was a kid. Um, yeah. Got back into it probably about 4 years ago, 3 years ago, pretty good, hot and heavy. Started hitting it hard, and then I decided just this past year, back in February 3rd, will be my 1 year anniversary to start doing a YouTube channel. I've been watching comic book YouTube for a while, so um, yeah, that's me in a nutshell, man.
So you stated that you got into it 3 or 4 years ago. You got back into it. So I'm kind of
Yeah.
wondering how that journey started for you. What age were you? What and what year? Not to like give out your age and stuff, but just kind of like a rough idea of when you started collecting comics or reading comics.
Yeah, well, really, I got to blame everything on my cousin, but we're more like brothers. We're about the same age, and grew up, playing everything from GI Joes to He Man to whatever, the those years, those early '80s, late '70s, early '80s. But yeah, my comic journey I started through him. He was starting to read comics before me, way before me, and just from spending time with him and everything and hanging out, we he got me into it. Well, it was nice because I could just go over to his house and and read his stuff. But because my parents, it took a little finagling to get them to finally start buying me some here and there. But generally, once they saw that that I was reading, at least I was reading something, so they would buy me one here and there. But yeah, uh, the age I was probably, I don't even know what year. What year was it? Well, it was about, I guess, yeah, about 10. I was looking at the book. I've actually got my very first comic right here next to me. I didn't bring a bunch of books. I had this one pulled out for something else, and I was looking at the year. But yeah, I was probably about 10, going on 11, and finally tricked my mom into, well, not really tricked her, but just begged her, I guess, enough at a grocery store off of a comic rack to say, "Hey, mom, let me get a book. Let me get a book," and finally talked her into it, and she allowed. So, but Yeah, and then from there, go through high school and just off and on collecting all the way up till I went into the military. Um, that put a big pause on it. I still would buy one here and there, maybe just to see how things was going with certain characters. And then after the military, I was picking some up, here and there, and purged the collection a couple times through all the years. You know how people do, and yeah, and then I just like I said, probably 3 or 4 years ago, probably about good 3 years ago, I started getting back into it really good. I was still buying here and there, but I only had maybe you know uh, a long box and a half, of comics. I was keeping everything short. I'd kept certain things, certain runs of characters that I really liked, and that was it. And from my childhood, actually, from teen years, early childhood to teen years, and then when I really started getting back into it, I just started going crazy, man. I guess I really fell back in love with it, and and had grown up money. So
Yeah, and when you have grown up money, like, it's endless. So it's just like, "Oh, I
right,
like that. I like that. I'm picking up that." So
right.
you go all out and just pick up everything that looks cool. But I am curious though, the first book that you bought up, you say you have it here right now. I'm curious to know what that is. Could you show us what that is?
Yeah, yeah. It's a king size annual Conan number 6 from 1981, I believe. Is it something like that? Yeah, yeah, 1981. So yeah, I would have been 10 years old at that point. But Roy Thomas, it's a Gil Kane cover, and but being an annual, I didn't, not understanding how all that worked at that time, Um, so when I started reading this, and then purchased a different one, a different Conan. So Conan was my, for my own collection, my first starting point. But then when I switched over to the regular run of Conan, I should have dug that one out too. I didn't think about that. Um, uh, but yeah, this is the one that I had to talk my mom into. It was 75 cents, I think, at the time, probably early 80s. I forget what the rest of the comics were, at that period of time. Maybe 35 cents, or no, there's probably more than that. But it was, I can remember having a fight with her. I'm like, "Mom, look, see, it's bigger. It's king size. That's why it costs more." And I didn't have a clue what it what I was even arguing for, just other than wanting to get the book, because that cover just captivated me a little bit. And it's worn and torn, because this is actually the book that I've had since I was 10 years old.
That's
It's all
amazing.
beat, huh?
Oh, I said that's amazing. That's the comic you have from childhood that you
Yeah,
first picked up. That's great.
yeah, it's all beat up. It's well loved. I know I read it, a lot. When I was a kid, I remember, and I was thinking one day of how I tore that. I must have probably gotten tape on it or something. I don't even know how kids are. Don't even know
Mhm.
how I tore that corner.
I don't know how it's still living to this day. Like most kids are just like, especially way back when, it's just like it didn't take until the 90s where people were like, "Oh, well, this is I'm going to try to keep this clean." And that really because people were collecting in that, and so it's, yeah, most people just rolled them up, put them in their back pocket, and just loved that book to death. So,
Yeah, probably in the late '80s, right before I went in the military in 1990. There one of our local comic shops, Rich's Comic Shop. No, not my comic shop, but it was called Rich's Comic
yeah,
Shop.
you can
Uh,
pretend it is.
yeah, and the guy that actually owned it, he wasn't much older than us. He was, only a few years. He was probably only a year or two out of high school or something, and had already had his own comic shop. But he he's the one who really was like chastised us about why aren't you guys? You need to be protecting these books and da 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 da. And we were just like, we didn't have a clue. He was like, we would use a Ziploc bag. What do you do? Something along those lines. But yeah, probably thanks to Rich early on, the books that I did keep, I had them all bagged and boarded, or at least bagged, you know, through the years and kept them safe.
So, is that the only book that you have from childhood that you were able to keep and secure for the rest till now?
No, I have let's see, trying to think what other ones I have. Like I have the Secret Wars. I have the complete run of the Secret Wars I bought when I was a child or younger, not child, but because that was later '80s, um, teenage years. And then I've like you know some of the first Spider-Man. Like I remember when Web of Spider-Man came out, and some of those like some different ones like that. A lot of, and then my question, my DC run, the question, the Dennis Cowan run. I That's still my favorite run of the question. He's my favorite DC character, and no one else is giving him the treatment that they did then. But yeah, I still have that whole complete run that has survived all these years since I slowly gathered them, back then. So
I will say the question is a very very underused character for a lot of things, and that like I know, and it sucks too because a lot of people um look over Vic Sage and go straight to Renee Montoya.
hmm
And like it's like, oh, that's my question in that. But like Vic Sage was a very, very good question in that. And I don't know if you've read it, but it's by Jeff Lemire. It was The Death of Vic Sage,
yes,
4 issue
yeah,
Black Label. That was
yeah,
fantastic.
yeah. I have that. That's a really good. I actually at Heroes Con, I had Dennis Cowan uh, sign a few of the books and stuff, and that was one of them that I had him sign. So, but yeah, it certain people's takes on him, but back in that run, I think some of the more current takes on him or whatever, like the cartoons and stuff, they make him out to be like crazy or whatever, type of character. And I never did like that. I didn't care for that. He was always to me from that that initial run that I jumped in on was he was a little more, calculating, a little more investigative. He was up there to me. He was up there with Batman. He was, and I always loved Batman too. I always like the. I think probably the street level heroes has probably always been my favorite. Question Batman, Luke Cage. Um, Stuff like some Daredevil. I've dabbled in and out of Daredevil, um, and then Spider-Man at times. I've always liked Spider-Man too. So
Yeah, did you hear that? MCU, Spider Man, MCU and Sony. Spider Man's supposed to be street level, guys. Come on.
yeah,
So I'm curious, like I was gonna ask you, like, is there anything surpassed Conan that you've started reading and you got fell in love with, but you kind of answered that already by saying like the Question, Spider-Man, Luke Cage, mostly the street level characters. So I'm going to ask you now, like, how did you get back into comics? Because you said it was 3 or 4 years ago. What really drove you to that point where you're like, hey, I'm going to start collecting comics. I have this love for comics from my childhood, and I'm going to get back into it.
well, my cousin, he's been my he's been my constant. When he comes into town, uh, he it's always been a thing for me and him to go do something together. So we would run around to some comic shops and around me where I would live and stuff. And then I started researching the shops a little bit more as far as to see what was actually around me. And I've always said it like on my videos and live streams and stuff that I'm really blessed where I live at that either north or south of me, I have a plethora comic shops, man. And I know, unfortunately, like like UTM, there's other people, and I just never did really think of it. I was just always like, well, I think there's one down here, or something. I just never did investigate it too hard. But then once I started really looking into it more, because we would like run to the flea markets. We have two different flea markets also not too far from me, and there was always a couple of guys in those places that would have booths set up. And like I said, it was just a way of for me and him to have a little bonding time while he was in town or whatever, visiting family and over the years. And then uh, probably right after COVID was starting to really lighten up a little bit, um, and with me and him running around, I don't know, it was something maybe like I said, through the years, I've gotten back into it a little bit here and there, but nothing like I have here in the last couple of years, 3 years or so. And stupid phone. um, but yeah, we uh, going around to like I said, going around to different shops and stuff, and it's just, yeah, it's made it way more interesting. We now when he comes into town, it's like now we can do little comic crawls. I'm like, "Hey, I found this other new shop. Yeah, it might be a little bit of a drive, but we can get there and hit a few shops on that day while he's in town." Because a lot of times when he comes in town, it's only for a day or two or something.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So
it.
when you guys get together, like you said that you guys get together and go to shops, but have you been going to cons together as well?
Heroes was our first time that um, the first con that we've ever done together. Usually because of his work, it's hard for him to get off at certain points and times of the years, of the year and stuff. But last year, when I decided, or this past year, beginning of the year, I was like, um, I'm going to Heroes Con. I just made up my mind. I was like, I'm going. I was like, start planning ahead, and like you need to do for something like that. So then I reached out to him. I said, "Hey," I said, "I'm going to Heroes Con. You're more than welcome to come." I said, "All you got to do is show up, and that's it. Because I'm already going to have a room because I'm going regardless, so I'll already have a room." And it made me happy to do that because it, like I said, just really taking something like that in together, for a little bit of brother time with my. I know it sounds funny to say my brother time with my cousin, but that's about how it is, because you don't get moments like that very often with people, and to me, you got to take advantage of it when you can, and
Hmm.
because we may never get to go together again, it's just one of those things, so.
And it's so cool that you kept that like bond of your love for comics throughout all of these years with them. So like that's just something you can cherish. Exactly what you said. Like you never know when if you can or go with that person again. So cherish every second you have with your loved ones and
Yep.
that. So that's fantastic. So three
Yeah.
or 4 years ago, you got back into comics. You'd be going to comic shops. Now to this day, how has your comic collecting changed? Like, because you said earlier you were just buying everything, you're picking up whatever you could whatever looked cool. So how has your comic collecting changed from then till now?
Um, well, when I first started really getting back into it, I mean, I still do the same thing. My love of dollar bins, that's basically how I rate my comic shops is if they have dollar bins or not. If they don't have a dollar bin for people to dig in, to me, that's the best way to get people into the door, to your shop. And uh, so if they have dollar bins, that's for me, that's the it's just a go-to. You know, I, being able to dig through the dollar bins and that starting to get back into it. What I was getting after was um, I started doing the dollar bins, and then I progressively have started loosening my or allowing myself to buy other books that might want to have, because I usually I've said it before is that I don't the books have monetary value, but I don't purchase a book because of its monetary value. If that makes any sense. Like, a lot of people, or I don't know a lot of people, but if it's you get FOMO'd, everybody gets FOMO'd. But if you buy a book because, oh, this book's worth a lot of money, well, I don't. That's okay if you do. I buy because if it's a book I want, then I'll work towards getting it. Um, but if it so happens to have monetary value, because a lot of times with how comic in the hobby is that um, it may have monetary value today, but then 3 years from now it may not have nothing. Yeah. So I don't uh, I don't look at it that way as far as when I decide to purchase, unless it's something that's a lot of money, and then I'll look at, if it's is it going to hold some value, or am I going to see a little return, or as long as but me, I'm a it's so hard for me to let go of anything as far as my books now. I don't flip, so if I buy, it's with me. It's going to be with me for a good while, unless I need to purge for whatever reason, just like in the past. So
I'm definitely with you. I don't usually sell at all. Like recently, I got a few slabs in and stuff, but like that was kind of like a mystery box scenario. So I didn't know what I was getting. So I was like, oh, you know what? I can sell these and um, buy something that I'm looking for, like Detective Comics 471 or Showcase 55 and that. Like I'm with you on that. Like some of the comics that I am after are worth a lot of money, but it's just I'm after them because they're the characters I like. I will mention
exactly.
one of them. I'm after Blue Beetle #1, the first appearance of the
Ooh,
Question next year. So
ooh, yeah,
it's because it's a character I like and I want that character in my collection. So
exactly. Yep, yep. I hope you get it, man, because that's awesome. I like the Blue Beetle for that reason also, because of the old Question and them, both their team ups and stuff. So yeah, that's awesome.
but you've really gotten into a lot of like slab collecting and that stuff too, right? Like you've
Well,
gotten into like getting keys for like the purpose of slabs. Like I'm not against slabs at all. Like I have a few
mm,
slabs. There's some things that I would want, but like some slabs are just cool to display.
yeah, here lately, it's the last few, I'd say, bigger acquisitions I've acquired or whatever, that they happen to be slabs, but sometimes if you're going to buy a more expensive book, even if it's like I said, it's not the reason why I'm buying. I'm buying it because I like the book itself. I'm wanting that book. This happens to have have some bigger value. But like advice you get from people like Alan and stuff, listening to those guys, it makes a lot of sense to get them in a slab, because then you know what you're getting. Because unless you're there buying the book and putting hands on that book and, and and looking at it and looking through the pages, you don't really know what you're getting. But if you're buying a slab and it's got a grade of this, then you know. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't have a whole lot of slabs. I've got, I don't know, maybe 10 right now. And that's the most slabs I've ever had up till probably 3 months ago. I only had maybe two, so I've acquired a few more in the last few months. Um, but yeah, I tend not to, I try not to buy stuff that is too high price, because like I said before, 3 years from now they may not be worth that, and it's just like that's the part that kind of might suck the fun out of collecting. If you realize, oh man, I paid this much for it 3 years ago. Now it's only worth this much. It's I don't want to get in that boat. For me, personally, if you're someone who's flipping or trading around and stuff like that, then more power to you. But yeah,
So as
me.
as a buyer, you're it's fun to look at comics that are low price right now, and you know that they're going to go up, and you're like, okay, I need to get that now before it does go up, and you're able to get cheaper comics sometimes for
Yeah,
that. So it's always good like that.
yeah.
So I want to know so we talked a little bit about your comic journey. I want to talk about your YouTube journey, how you
Okay.
came onto YouTube. What was your kind of first experience with doing a video or being a guest on somebody's channel?
Uh, yeah, well, I mean, when I was, excuse me, I watching some of the other YouTubers and like comic tropes. I watched him for a long time. Then that led me into like Comic Mike, or not Comic Mike, but Lunch Money Comics, Bronze and Modern Gods. I watched those guys for quite a while. And then when I started, after I'd been collecting back into collecting and it opened up, I was kind of being not snobbish, but I was just like being very particular about who I watch because I watch on YouTube. That's my sole entertainment is that's all I ever watch is YouTube. So my other interests are, cars and hot rods and stuff like that. So I'll watch videos on those. There's certain channels that I watch pretty religiously. And then woodworking and stuff like that, So breaking up your time to who you watch and how many channels you have and who you follow each week. There's only so much time in a day, So especially after working all day. Um, so then once I started really looking at other um, comic YouTubers, I was like Oh Yeah Comics and SideQuest Comics and um, uh, Colossus, and that opened up the doors to some other people, and then that's when I came across like Alan and Biggie Shack and stuff like that, and I was like, I could do that. I want to do that. I want to do that because I was commenting. I was in the comment section for a little bit, and so then I was like, well, okay, now I'm going to create. I got to come up with a name, you know. Didn't know really what to name anything or name what I was going to call everything, and uh, Big Nasty is just something that I've used off and on as a joke, kind of a joke company type scenario over the years, whether it was Big Nasty Graphics or Big Nasty Art or something like that. It's just different kind of joke companies that I had, not actual companies. And because originally I was going to call it Fathead Comics because we growing up, me and my buddies, because none of my buddies, I mean, my cousin Jamie was the only one that was in the comics, and then I had a couple other little friends from there. But my core buddies, none of them other guys collected, so I was the only one that liked comic books. But we always called each other Fathead. It was always fat. Hey, Fathead, get over here. And so that's been a name. It's been around in my life for for all forever. But I was like, well, I don't know if I want to call it that or what. But there was a graphics company. I don't think they're around anymore, and it was Fathead Graphics or something like that. It was that company that would send you a print of like a sports figure and you could put it on the wall and stuff, and they called it Fathead. Well, my Fathead was always with two T's, FATT. And so, I went from that and I thought, well, Big Nasty Comics. I was like, I like that. I like that, with the two G's and stuff. So I developed that and took off and got a camera and I reached out to Nate from Hall Yeah, Eric from SideQuest, Hagen from Lettuce Comics, and who was the other one? Oh shoot, man, I apologize. I forget. It was 4 people, but there was those 3 guys. I reached out and actually and asked them, say, "Hey, can we video call each other sometime and just chat about doing a channel? I'm thinking about doing a channel. I'd like to ask you some questions." And they were very open and receptive to it. And they were like, "Yeah, sure, man," And because like I said, they had seen me in the comments, so it wasn't like I was some weirdo out of the blue hitting them up, trying to talk to them or something. But and they gave me some pointers and and places to start and things to do and some good advice. And yeah, when I first I think I used my phone for my very first intro video. Man, I still get a little bit nervous. I still get a little bit, trying to figure out what you're going to say, what I want to
Mhm.
do. Because I generally don't sit around. I don't try to write a script. I'm envious of guys that can do that kind of stuff, but my brain don't work that way. So I'm better, by the seat of my pants, and I can get a general idea of what I want to say in my videos and just take off. And but that's why a lot of times you can tell I'm not doing like a lot of jump cuts and stuff. I ain't doing a whole lot of cutting, and there's nothing wrong with that either.
No.
I don't bash anybody for how they do their videos because everybody has their own way of being creative and how they want to express themselves. And I wish I could be more efficient in the editing part of it because the the way my videos are made aren't really the way I'd like for them to be made. If I was like a really good editor and could really edit or have one of those really fancy editing programs, it would probably be a lot different.
That's what I've always said. I was like, I have so many ideas, but I can't do it. I
Yeah,
can't physically do it with like the magic of editing and stuff. Like, shout out to E-Man and DJ Lynx, who are like phenomenal at editing. I can't
yeah,
do it.
yeah. I wished I could express the ideas in my brain and just have them show up straight to the computer, and it'd make it a lot easier.
Yeah. So there was so the people that you met, Lettuce, shout out to Lettuce Comics, Paul Yeah Comics, um, and who was the
Side
other one?
quest, side quest.
Side Quest. Side Quest. Shout out to them for helping you come into this community because like that's what I like about the community. The community will be like, hey, you need help with something? Yeah, I'll help you out. If I'm physically able to help you out with it, I will help you out with it.
Yeah,
And that's what I love about the community. They're not like that's what was my main fear about getting into comics like 5 6 years ago and that back into comics and that is like, oh, I don't know where to start, I don't know where to go, and people were willing to be like, hey, check out this book, check out this book, or here's some key books, or this is the characters you should be going after. So people are like more than willing to help, and I was always scared that people would look down on you because you didn't know that much about comics. So I'm
right.
very very happy of how welcoming the community actually is.
Yeah,
And
there it's been great, man. It's like you said, the community is very supportive and outreaching to each other. So
so I want to know how you and Chanko got together because I've talked a little bit to Chanko about that, but I want to hear your side and how your take on it because you both do shows together and that, and I will get into how that came about too because you actually do contact a lot of artists and are actually able to have artists come on your channel and get to know them a little bit more. But I want to start with how you and Chanko became friends.
well, yeah, it goes back to the beginning of when I was deciding I was going to start doing a channel. Um, yeah, I think he started maybe a little less than a month before me. I think he started in January, and like I said, I started in like beginning of February. And shortly after I'd done a few videos and was shooting around some ideas, and I've always felt like I'm always like an idea guy. My phone on my notes app, I'm always getting on there saying, telling my phone something, an idea for something for for YouTube. And uh, so when I decided, I was like, well, I'd really like to do my own little interview show. Um, and but I didn't want it to be just a regular interview show. So I tossed around some different ideas in my head, and then I was like, you know what, I need somebody else. I don't want to be by myself. I don't. it's it does help a lot. That was one of the advice I think that one of the guys had given me. Uh, was that if you can, that it does help to have someone else, uh, be there by your side a little bit, especially when you're new to it, when you're really brand new to everything, and kind of jumping with both feet in. And so I looked around. I was looking around some other new YouTubers because I wanted it to be another new guy. I didn't want it to be like a seasoned vet and have some new guy hitting on them saying, "Hey, would you want to do a show together?" So I thought another new person might be a little more receptive to it. So and that's my other problem too. Is I say I try like heck to say I constantly saying I sound like a parrot sometimes. But,
You know?
you know, um, yeah, uh, so then I reached out to, Mike uh, and kinda we started spitballing a little bit about what to do and the show, and I told him my ideas, and he told me, his ideas and concerns or whatever, and he loved it. He was like, "Heck yeah, man, that sounds awesome, let's do something like that," and so we decided, well, okay, what day? So the landscape, through the week, you got to you have to stop and look, and because you really don't want to be stepping on someone else, and you don't want to be undershadowed from somebody else also. So we started looking around, and at that point in time, there wasn't a whole lot going on Saturday nights. There was a few, but it wasn't a whole bunch. And I figured and talking with Mike, we kind of both figured, well, that might be our best night. And we're both single guys, and it doesn't say much for our single life that we have every Saturday night open up to do a comic book interview show, hanging out. But that's all right. No, it works out great. Yeah, and it, and as far as reaching out, Mike does an excellent job of getting a lot of our um, guests. I reach out. I get a few here and there. I reach out to a lot, but Mike's the one that has the luck of getting responses. It's the way he words his paragraphs or his asks, I guess. Um, which is great. It's like if you want to, it's great to have somebody like that knows how to speak and express themselves generally good enough to where that you get a good response from somebody like that. Some of the bigger names that we're finally getting there. We're working our way to some, a little bit bigger names here and there, and it's a process. We've only been doing it since when did we start? I don't even remember our start. I don't even remember our start time. Probably since I don't know around when did we start? April, May, somewhere in there, maybe. I'd have to go back and look.
Yeah, that's the good thing about YouTube. They'll let you know the exact day that you put it up, so you started. So
Yeah.
I love that you guys are reaching out. And like I agree, Chanko, and that reaching out, and most people will say yes. That's the thing you don't realize and stuff. Because when I started YouTube, I was just like, I'm gonna reach out to some creators and see if they say yes. And like I reached out to 5 people, and 4 out of the 5 said yes. And I was just like, oh. Now the worst thing is not them saying no. The worst thing is them saying yes, because now I gotta do this. I'm like,
No,
oh no.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the thing. I always tell people that it never hurts to reach out to someone, and if unless they tell you no, then that doesn't mean uh, that you stop asking. You always keep asking until they reach back and say no, thank you. Then you say okay. I'm not asking you no more. But yeah, that's like you said. Then when you do get the response, you're like, oh, okay, now we gotta,
We got to get things
now we got,
rolling now.
yeah.
And that brings me to my next thing. Like, how was that experience? Like, getting the show started with Chanko and that, like, how was the experience of actually having these guests on, like, right after having them on, getting to know them more, and that, how has that changed your perspective on artists and creators?
I mean, they're people too. You know, they all have their problems and good times and bad times like everybody else. And it's always interesting to um, get to know somebody on a more personable level, um, other than just what they do for a living or how they collect or what they collect and everything. I mean, this show right here is prime example. I'm sure you've probably learned almost. You've got congratulations, almost being 100 episodes, man. That's a heck of an accomplishment, buddy. And hopefully one day me and Chanko will get there eventually. But um,
I,
it's a very much learning situation. That's why I enjoy it immensely. Getting to meet and talk to different people, it gets me out of my comfort zone because I am very, very much an introvert, and sometimes I think people, um, when they meet me or get to know me a little bit or something, they may think that something differently of me than how I really am. It's just because I'm so guarded and introverted, it's but doing these shows, doing this, doing the live show, and then doing the geeking out show, it just helps me break that. I always try to find, I'm very well aware of how I am, introverted I am, and I'm always trying to figure out ways of breaking that, to keep me from, you have to, man, because if not, I would turn into like a hermit. I wouldn't do I wouldn't do anything but work and come home, and that would be it. And this is a great way of, like I said, getting to meet new people and just learning things, man. It's all about learning things. To me, you could never, you should never. My aunt told me when I was a kid that you should never stop learning. And that's just always. It's a pretty generic saying or advice, but it was to a little kid. It just stuck in my head. You know,
Mhm.
so
And I definitely feel you when you say you're an introvert, but like we as humans need to be connected with people. So I
right.
always make the joke that I'm an introvert too, like kind of like you saying like this helped me break. Like be out there and talk about things and be able to communicate with people. And I've always joked that I'm an introvert, but I'm also a social butterfly. Because like if like I'm very, very guarded too. I don't go out and like hang around with a lot of people and stuff. I don't go to social gatherings. I'm not a big person of crowds.
Me
So
neither.
this helps me a lot because now I'm in my own space, but I'm hanging out with people as well.
Exactly. That's the part that, like, um, you know, when we were talking about doing the show, I mentioned something to Mike about, after the interview part, I'd really like to do like a hangout, turn it into like a hangout and invite people to come on, and if they have questions, and it's just another way of, instead of trying to read off everybody's chats and asking questions that way, if the person actually wants to come on and take part in it, and then it kind of turns into a hangout, and like you said, now I'm safe where I'm at, but I'm still hanging out with other people and talking and having fun, and that's, 'cause I think everybody likes to have fun, but, you wanna but be comfortable when you're having fun. Because 'cause I'm the same way, dude. I do not like, big gatherings and big, party. I'm not much of a party goer, like, when I was younger, of course, I think I probably was, but that's, alcohol helped out a lot with that, but I don't, I don't drink anymore. So, uh,
Same.
but, yeah, yeah.
So I'm curious to know, like, and you've probably had a lot of guests on that you were kind of dream guests to begin with, like having them on is just like blows your kind of mind. But I want to know who is your dream guest to have on? Who is the creator that you'd be blown away come on to the show?
Oh man, that's yeah, that's I'm an artist. I'm art driven. I'm very visual. Um, not that I don't like a good story, but predominantly when I buy books, it's usually art driven. It's because of an artist that I like or something. Um, but for the current artists that are still alive, um, man, I that's a tough one. That's 'cause I would love to talk to, like, Sam Keith, Kelly Jones, um, let me think, duh, 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 oh, even David Finch, just some different current ones. I like Ryan Otley. Um, man, I'm trying to think of who my ultimate uh, who would that be? Who would that be? Probably, someone like Kelly Jones or Sam Keith would be awesome. Brian Boland, um, or even, McFarlane. That would be a huge one. Being art, like I said, just being art driven. Yeah. But if there was people that were still alive, it would be John Buscema, because that's my dude. That's if there was no time frame and everybody was still alive, that would be my guy. That would be the one I would love to go and have a sit down with and talk to and just talk about how much of an influence he's been on me my whole life. And because back to the first book, the next book I got, that's the book that was, the first book was Gil Kane. Well, then when I got the next book, next Conan book, it was a John Buscema book. And I was like blown away by his art. It was just like, because I always draw and stuff. So when I got that book and I was like, ooh, I was like, man, I said, wait a minute, this is a different artist. And my cousin had to say, look, no, sometimes that happens. They change artists, from book to book. And so then that hooked me in from then on. I was a big John guy. Yeah, he was my main dude for a long time. So that's been my life quest too, is to get every piece of work that he's done, which he has. He's probably the only guy that can say that he's had, as far as pen to page, he has a bigger body of work than Jack Kirby. So it's going to take probably the rest of my life and another life if I, to be able to get everything. But it's fun. It's fun to get out there and ever so often be like, ooh, that's one of his covers, or yeah, well, he did the interiors of this. And but now here lately I've been trying to collect some of his really early stuff from like the 40s and 50s, some of his beginning works. But that generally sums up of maybe just a cover or a page or two in a book. But I'm still working at trying to get those. But that's a lifelong goal, you know.
What's
The
what's your favorite piece by him?
Oh man. Um trying to Well, surprisingly, it's not I mean, I love him. His Conan work is by far, some of the, like I said, it was my intro into his world, but um my favorite piece would probably be some of the stuff that he actually didn't like to do. Big John didn't like doing superheroes. He liked the mystical and stuff like that, like Conan, and he didn't like drawing tights and superhero stuff. But that's the stuff that I liked. Like Silver Surfer, his little run on Silver Surfer when they first brought out his solo book. Of course, the four Silver Surfer number four, that cover, that iconic cover of them, coming in at each other. That was Big John. So yeah, it just blows me away. That's probably one of my favorite covers.
So I'm going to switch things up a little bit. I like to talk to people about like other pop culture things in their life, like TV and movies, and that you did say that your most of your entertainment is like boxcars and racing and woodworking and stuff like that. But I am curious to know, is there any other entertainment that you watch besides that?
Movies, music. I used to be a really big movie guy, man. Back in the days of VHSs and DVDs. Yeah, at one point I can remember when I first switched over from VHS to DVD. I'd already started collecting DVDs, but I had sold off my old VHSs. I think I had probably 120 VHS tapes or something, and I took it to one of those second time around stores, and sold them off. And then I did end up doing the same thing with my DVDs when the DVDs first started going away. I think I know I had over 350 DVDs. So I was a pretty big movie buff, man. I used to be like a I was always the kind of guy that I would watch anything. I'd give anything a few hours of my day or something and give it a try, and regardless of other people saying how much it sucked or how much they loved it, I'd always want to judge it for myself. And so it ranged from you know B horror flicks to indie films to almost like student films, just and then of course action and adventure and even romance. I'd even watch certain romance movies, as long as they weren't too damn cheesy, so but yeah, but here in the last several years it's been YouTube. I don't know if I'm getting to be a lot like the rest of the world where my attention span's gotten shorter and I like watching stuff like that. But yeah, I don't even keep cable anymore. I do have a few different movie streaming channels, like Netflix or HBO or something to be able to watch some movies here and there. I watched Weapons just yesterday or Saturday. That was really good. That was a good throwback type of style of movie. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but it's
I did. I did see
did
it
you?
in theaters. I was disappointed the first time, but my second time watch through is I was just like, you know what? I do like what they did with the camera work. So
Yeah, it was I'm always one trying to figure things out within the first 10 minutes of a flick. I'm always watching for different clues and everything, and but by the end of it I was like, yeah, that was pretty good. I can see why people, they liked it. And that's like that werewolf movie that came out that took place back in the 30s or whatever. Had Michael
is
B.
that the
Jordan in it.
werewolf or wasn't that
No,
Sinners?
Sinners, yeah, Sinners. That was another good one.
I still have yet
But
to watch that.
yeah, it's pretty good. It's a different take on that genre also. Um, I still like going to the movies. Like when my cousin comes into town or something, he's big on movies also. So we always, if there's something out worth seeing, we'll run to the movies and check them out and stuff. But like I think a lot of comic book guys or people that here in the last decade or couple, decade and a half, been loving all the Marvel movies until here recently. So that's the only thing that's sad. Hopefully that genre is not dead, but Superman returned my faith to that because of James Gunn. He's so good right now, and hopefully nothing happens to tarnish that, and they keep going with that universe because I've been screaming it like a lot of people. I've been screaming that for years and years and years. I'm like, why DC? Why don't you carbon copy after the first couple of years after Iron Man came out and like Thor and Captain America? DC should have said, or Warner Brothers, whoever owns them, should have said, we need to carbon copy everything they're doing as far as how they're structured their business and that's what we need to do. It's like they're finally doing that now, but it's hopefully it's not too far too late type of situation. So
I argue they're kind of doing what they're doing, but in their own little way. Because like with the Superman movie, we got introduced to a ton of like B, C list characters that never had the shine of day before, like Metamorpho, Mister Terrific. Then you have like the Peacemaker show introducing other minor characters like Judo Master and that
yeah,
Sasha Bordeaux. Um, and it's just cool. Vigilante, of course. Vigilante is now a household name.
Vigilante is another one I love. That's been a character run up, but fingers crossed for the question. Hopefully, a Vic Sage question is in the works because I think that would make a excellent uh, TV show or series, just like Peacemaker. I think that would be he's a good enough character that they could do something with that. It'd be really badass. Me personally, I
Like,
may be a little biased, but
yeah, like have him introduced, like, because like they introduced Checkmate. They're gonna have that Waller show. They still have
yeah.
Lanterns coming. The Supergirl show. Like, there's a lot in the horizon for DC, and as a DC fan that grew up with a lot of DC stuff,
Hmm.
I'm super excited for it. And I do
Yeah.
think like if things stay the way that they are, I know WB is up for sale. If things stay
Yeah.
the way that they are and they keep this same regime going forward, that I think we'll eventually get a question, because he's stated James Gunn stated a few characters that he really likes. One being Constantine, the other being the Question. So,
Yep. Yep. So that's why I was saying fingers crossed.
but like for me, media wise, I do watch a lot of TV. I'm a big TV goer in that, and I do agree the attention span of some people is lowering and stuff. When I try to watch everything that I like, and try to get through the entire episode.
Hmm.
And that if I have to go to the bathroom, pause it. But once I start a show, I stick with the show no matter what. I'm going down with the show. No how like Supernatural, I watched it for 15 years. That's how dedicated I was to that show. I love that show. I'm curious to know if there's any TV shows like that for you.
Not here recently. Um, I was into the Smallville verse. I like Smallville, and then when they did the Arrowverse and Flash and stuff, I watched those all the way to the till they went off air. Also, I remember watching Supernatural a few times, but I was thinking I think it clashed with something else at that point in time, and it kind of got me out of it. I don't know what else would have been on, but right offhand, without really, looking into it. But always liked that show. But like I said, I think it clashed with something else that I watched, and uh, and for me, if I miss a good portion of a season, like that on a show that's just started, it, I can't get back into it, or it's it's hard to jump back in. So, but yeah, here lately, besides like Peacemaker, um, like on HBO, I was trying to think if there's any other shows that I. Oh, I did watch Alien Earth. I did get into that, man. Once I start, I'm like you said, once I start watching a series, if I catch it from the beginning or go back and kind of binge watch the however many episodes are out, if they've been out for a few weeks, and get into it, I'm the same way. I'm like, all right, I'm buckled in. Let's go. I'm going down that rabbit hole. So, but yeah, Alien Earth was pretty good. I don't know if you watched that or not, but
I did.
did you?
I enjoyed it for what it was, and
Yeah,
that like I hope they are getting a season two. If they're not, then that season was kind of wasted, because it felt like it did feel like it was a setup for season two. I did like the characters that they did introduce, and some of the monsters they introduced. They're aliens.
yeah. I'd seen somewhere online where they said they'd gotten approved for season two, so hopefully that holds true.
I'm hoping. I'm hoping that it does. Yeah, I absolutely love week to week shows. That's my type of deal. And I don't. I like binging some stuff, but I like the week to week things. Like you work all week and stuff, you have something to look forward to on a certain day. And that, like, a lot of people I talk to are like, oh, you watch a lot of TV, man, and stuff. I'm like, I don't really watch a lot of TV. It's just one episode a night. So it's just like,
Right.
it's just shows that I'm looking forward to each week. It does make it harder when it drops all at once though, because you're just like, I want to watch it all at once when it comes out, because you have that urge to be like, oh, I can watch the next episode. They left me on a cliffhanger. I need to watch it to see what happens. And they get you
Just
doing
one
that.
more, just one more,
Yeah.
yeah, just one more
You watch the
episode.
entire season in one night and you're like
It's
dead
2
from work the
2 AM.
next day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's 2 AM and you gotta get up at 5. It's like, "Oh, man."
Well, Rich, my friend, thank you so much for sitting down with me. We hit that hour mark. We went a
Yeah,
little bit over, but due to technical issues during the recording, which you guys won't see, um,
yeah.
uh, it ran a little bit longer. But I appreciate
Thanks
you
for
taking
having
the
me,
time out of
man.
your busy day.
Oh, thanks for
No.
having me, buddy. Anytime, anytime.
So if you would like to go check out Rich's channel or Richard on IG, definitely go check him out. The link to his YouTube and Instagram is down below, as well as Chonko's Instagram and YouTube, because they're a duo that do a show together. So thank you so much, Rich, for joining me today. Is there any last words that you want to say before we end this?
Uh, nah, just keep buying and reading comics.
You heard him. Get out there,
Yeah,
keep reading and buying comics. So
alright.
that being said, guys, hit that like button, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and as always, my friends, stay freaking nerdy.